Russell Wilson going to the Pittsburgh Steelers, 1 year team friendly deal. What Brandon Perna wished upon Tree all those weeks ago has finally come to fruition. And
Tree
now,
for 1 million subscribers. Get it, baby.
Yeah, Tree's going to get some subs. Tree's going to get those million views videos now.
Oh, no. Yeah, this will be fun. I mean, I feel like that should be a 3-way stream between you, me, and Tree, and we see if we can get 75,000 live people in there.
Just see how high it could go.
Yeah.
The
It'd be a little chaotic. One of us is going to have to figure out a new role, but within
I'm just
that
the
stream.
referee. I'm just throwing laundry.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because we do have a very special guest today. A very, very special guest. He is now the brand new owner of a lightly used Russell Wilson.
Moderately used.
Moderately used.
Moderately used.
Wow,
You're
this does not line up well at all. What's going on, Tree?
I think what happens is it's because you have the super chat on. Okay, now we're kind of
it's
there.
The chat.
There it is.
Look at that. Perfect.
It's the chat. Well,
what's going on, buddy?
Brandon, we're riding.
You're riding, buddy.
We are riding in so many ways right now.
Very
we're going to
so.
be riding cowgirl, reverse cowgirl. We're power bottoming our way through all this.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be wonderful times. Wonderful times. And the thing is, it actually makes perfect sense. This is what I said would happen. It's what I said would happen. It's like they need a veteran quarterback to potentially push Pickett as a low-end starter, comes cheap. And also, he's a situation where if things go to crap with Kenny Pickett, he could start in a pinch. And I'm not expecting the Russell Wilson from Seattle. He's not what he was. His athleticism isn't what it was, but he can still do a job. He showed flashes of that last year. And I mean, he still has that ability. Is it going to do anything for the Steelers? I don't know. Because at the same time, you're combining his powers with the powers of Arthur Smith, which means there's going to be a lot of play action. So I think Russell Wilson does well in the play action.
Oh, yeah. That's a sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. So I think go ahead.
I'll say the real question is who will be memed more, Arthur Smith or Russell Wilson next season?
Yes.
Do you think that Arthur Smith is kind of just being like, what did I do? Like what has happened to me?
I think with Arthur Smith, he's just looking for a paycheck at this point and to stay in the NFL.
Tree, question for you. So you talk about how much this makes sense, right? Do you think that this move elevates the Steelers enough where they're gonna be contenders? Because it was really interesting seeing the reactions from different fan bases. Like Steelers are kind of like, okay, like this could be good, and even if it doesn't work out, like it's not really gonna cost anything. But you even saw like some Ravens fans who were like, oh, they were able to still like make it into the postseason last year. Like even if this gives them 1 or 2 more wins, like this could be problematic. Like where are you at? Does this move the needle enough for you in terms of being competitive?
It mostly depends on other factors, more or less. I think it has more to do with like last year was Matt Canada, and the problem is you don't know what Kenny Pickett is because Matt Canada. He takes a lot of the blame out of things. So this is make or break time for Kenny Pickett. If Pickett flops, guess what? You're going into the draft next year. You're gonna try and find your quarterback there, even though it's another weak draft class. So you're hoping maybe Quinn Ewers or Shadur Sanders. Sorry, I totally messed up that name. Or maybe even a trade acquisition. Maybe Kirk Cousins doesn't work out in Atlanta. So I would say there's a little of that. I mean, there are questions about Deontay Johnson. He could be moved.
You would hope that this is going to give you some finality about Kenny Pickett, regardless of how it goes. Because I imagine Wilson's going to be brought in, and they're going to go compete for the spot. And so if Pickett doesn't win out, like, cool. He gets to sit for a bit. Then maybe you can figure it out afterwards in the offseason, or if Russell Wilson doesn't do well, they can throw him in there. Because I feel like that's also what this season is. It is a bit of an evaluation year. We're going, do we have the right guy behind center? And hopefully this is a cheap way to figure that out.
If Kenny Pickett impresses like in the preseason or training, however they do it, where the Steelers just release Russell Wilson before the season, that's probably your best case scenario. if he's not good, you're riding with Russ for 1 year, and I think he makes your offense better just by who he is, regardless of who your coordinator is. It'll be up to him and Arthur Smith to be on the same page, and for Arthur Smith to understand what his weaknesses are, which Sean Payton did, which everybody said Sean tried to neuter Russell Wilson, and that's completely false. Russ has a very big weakness, and you gotta plan around it. And where the Steelers can make up for it is just handing that little football off to Najee and Warren. Like from 20-yard line to 20-yard line, the Steelers should lead the league in handoffs. Like 30 plus carries a game. And once you get to the red zone, it's crazy. Russ can move the ball through the red zone and put it in the corners for his receivers to make plays as good as any of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league. Our problem last year, though, it's trying to get into the red zone consistently. So it's all about Russ is a steal at $1.2 million.
Yep.
But like we could go through a list of quarterbacks and go, which of these players would you not pay $1.2 million to be your QB? The real question is, what is a fair price to pay Russell Wilson? It's probably like 25, 30 million versus the 40 that he was at. But
I think it had more to do with just the expectations of Russell Wilson coming into Denver. He was supposed to be the savior. I thought he was going to turn Denver around too, especially because they needed quarterback and coaching. And the thing with Russell Wilson too, it's just like he just doesn't fit Sean Payton's scheme. Payton didn't like him, and that's why they kind of threw him under the bus. And he's still a low-end starter to me at this point. So like he still has value, and at $1.2 million, it's worth taking a shot on.
I heard something, I think it was on the radio out here in Denver, but Drew Brees basically said the version of Sean Payton's offense he watched the Broncos run last year was unrecognizable to him. So that should tell you how far off it is. But Russ needs to be in the right situation, and he was getting paid like a quarterback who should go to any situation and make it better. It just wasn't the case. Yeah. And I hope he plays well for you guys. I think that's a weird thing with Russ. He'll drive you fucking nuts. He drives me fucking crazy. Sometimes it's awesome. He's a weird ass dude, but ultimately I'm rooting for him to succeed because he's not a guy that I thought was like a bad guy, right? I'm not rooting against him. And I think people get that impression. I hope he takes the Steelers to the playoffs. Like I really do. But like, it wasn't going to work here. And I'm happy he's in a situation that's, I think, outside of Atlanta, probably the best place he could go was Pittsburgh.
Well, I think too, because there's a starting quarterback position available for him. I mean, he'll be competing in camp. I think that's what Russell Wilson wanted more than anything. I think he wanted the chance to prove that he's still a starting quarterback in the NFL. And there are only 32 jobs available, even if it's like, say, the Washington Redskins under the heyday of Dan Snyder. It's still a starting quarterback job.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think that's the real thing that Russell Wilson's shooting for. He is already making his money. He's already has like something like $150 million guaranteed from the extension that hasn't even kicked in yet. So I think that's really what he's shooting for. And I mean, you're talking about aggravating quarterbacks. I mean, Kenny Pickett himself is pretty aggravating. Like there are times where he'll just miss throws. And I don't know if it's like a miscommunication issue or if it's just an accuracy issue or, just like that'll be something like really weird. And then in the fourth quarter, he just turns into John Elway. It is the weirdest like dynamic I've seen in a good bit. But that's the thing with Pickett. He doesn't turn the ball over and he's clutch. And if Russell Wilson can do that, I mean, that's pretty much the Steelers' baseline. I think it could be successful.
He doesn't throw a lot of picks, Russ. Now, he's going to have some fumbles that rip your heart out of your chest. Couple fumbles.
Most quarterbacks do. I mean,
he's going to take sacks. He's going to take dumb sacks. That's
Pickett does that too. Like he's very skittish in the pocket. And he evades a lot and he runs into some coverage sacks. So there's also that situation too. And I think you'll have to see that in training camp. Maybe it's a situation where which quarterback's the best fit and they'll come into play there. And I think that's more or less going to be I would say the fight coming into it.
Well, let me tell you about GPS clips the hottest, outrageous channel that's been around for a little while now, like a year now, right?
Look it. You can find all of your GPS clips here.